Hello, Joanna. It's Mark from the Self-Isolation Choir, and it's lovely to see you. And thank you for honoring us
Lovely
with
to
your
see
presence
you.
for this amazing course that we're about to start with. How do you keep the music playing? Um, so, can I just tell you a little bit of background as to how it all came about? And I'd love to know a little bit about your deep, deep, deep involvement in this amazing piece. Well, as you may know, we have an extraordinary number of amazing singers who sing with us. And one of them, Peter, dropped me an email a few months ago now and said, Mark, you've got to watch this link. And so I try and listen to everything, Joanna, that the choir send me. And I listened to this link, and it was you uh, sitting, I think, in the middle of the ring with Helen singing the solo and surrounded by what must have been about 16 or 20 of the most talented, amazing young people singing, with Stephen Layton, I think, conducting.
Mhm.
Um, and I was transfixed that that people could make such a gorgeous sound. And of course, Helen is amazing. We know that, and she's sung for us for a number of our courses: Mozart's Requiem, Vivaldi's Gloria, Elijah, etc. But the sort of sound that you all made together was just, I mean, it was intoxicating. And I said to Peter, we have to do this. And then, of course, we spent a couple of weeks finding out who owns the rights and who wrote it and who did the arrangement, and eventually you popped up and said, "Oh, I think I can help," and it's just all gone on from there, which is amazing. So we are so looking forward to having you teaching us this amazing piece of music. So it would be so exciting to hear from you how you became involved with it.
Well, I'm also very, very excited about this course. I can't begin to tell you how much I love this song. I think of every song I've ever performed, it's still my favourite.
Really.
Uh, my initial connection with the song was because it's written by a French composer called Michel Legrand, who died a couple of years ago, and his sister, Christian Legrand, was in the Swingles when it formed in 1963. Now, the Swingles, it was known as Les Swingle Singers originally, and then it became Swingle 2, and then it was the Swingle Singers, and now it's the Swingles. But anyway, was this group of French session singers led by Ward Swingle, who was an American over in Paris in the 60s, studying jazz, doing some work as a session singer. And they formed, and anyway, so Christiane, the original soprano, most divine voice, it's her brother who wrote the song. So I've
Ah,
always felt a kind of connection
ah,
with the Legrand family
yeah.
in this way, because when I was in the Swingles, I sang Christiane's part. So a lot of the solos that she was famous for recording in the 1960s, I ended up performing. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I started performing this piece with my husband, Alexander. More on him in a minute. When we did our jazz duo gigs, we would always sing this song because we loved it so much. And then when I left the Swingles in 2004, um, Alexander said, I want to write an arrangement of How Do You Keep the Music Playing, this song, for you to sing as a solo with the Swingles in your last ever concert with the Swingles after 7 years of touring around the world directing this
Amazing,
group.
amazing.
So that was just amazing. And the last concert ended up being in Rome in the Accademia di Santa Cecilia, most beautiful building. All my family came out, Ward Swingle came out, and we had this huge
I'm in
concert.
tears. I'm in
And,
tears already. I'm in tears.
oh, and we did the song. We did the song, and quite how I managed to get through it without crying, because I'm a real weeper. I don't know, but the what I loved about the lyrics, and what I still love about the lyrics, is that the metaphor of how do you keep the music playing,
Yes.
which obviously means something totally different now, with how do you keep a long-term relationship going. And for us, we've been together for 30 years, so we got together in our teens, and we got married 25 years ago. But we got married, and then the following year I got this Swingles job, so I was away for 7 years. So this kind of idea of a long relationship, long distance relationship, how do you keep it going, da, 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 it just meant so much to us personally. And the lovely thing about the song, as with all great songs, is it means something different to everybody who
Yes.
sings it or hears it. So that was my initial thing. I sang it with the Swingles. Then we thought, let's record it. So we did this crazy recording you might have seen on YouTube of me singing all the 7 parts
Yes.
of the thing, and then with Alexander on the bass line.
Yes. Yes.
And we released that. And I think it was that recording that Stephen Layton saw. And he thought, I need to put this song on our next Trinity College choir. They mostly do even songs and traditional
Yeah.
classical repertoire, but they also do this kind of fun jazz thing as a sort of sideline. And so Stephen invited me to come and work with the choir, to coach them on all of their jazz repertoire, because that's a thing that I do, is coaching particularly traditional choirs in how to sound more authentic when they're doing the kind of jazz pop repertoire.
Great. This is just what we need too. It's perfect.
Oh, and it was just brilliant because I went along. It was very funny actually, because I was invited for 3 hours and I ended up staying for 5 days.
My God.
So I did my 3-hour workshop, and then Stephen said, yeah, what are you doing for the rest of the week? And I said, this and that. And he said, right, can you just cancel it? We've got you a room in college. You can just stay all week.
Wow.
You need to be there for all of the sessions. And that was it was just a real privilege, because I essentially, as you saw, ended up sitting inside the circle. We had all the singers of the choir in a circle. And quite often, Stephen would say, right, Joanna, just give them a few pointers of things that you've worked on with them that you mustn't forget before we do a take. And sometimes he would say, you lead this one in, you start it off, do your thing, do your jazz thing, and then I'll kind of take over. So we were very much working in tandem. And it was a joy. And obviously working with Helen was a joy. And I'm actually working with the same choir again later this year. So I tend to go back every couple of years and give them a refresher.
Well, it's just extraordinary. And remind me, how many voice parts are we singing and for the course?
So 7. So
7.
it's soprano, alto, tenor. There's 1 tenor line. There are 2 bass lines, 2 alto lines, 2 soprano lines. So I think I've got my maths right. Yes,
Yeah.
S F A T B B. So it's a wonderful, rich 7-part texture. But what makes it so different from a lot of the other pieces that the self-isolation choir might have sung is that for the majority of the arrangement, you are being an instrument rather than
Yes.
a singer.
Yes.
And that's what I love. And that's what we did in the Swingles a lot. So you would sing with a scat, whether it was a do or a da or a bar or a bavada or whatever, in the absence of any words, because you were essentially just being an instrumental texture. And what's so lovely about Alexander's arrangement is that he then has sections where the choir is being singers,
Yes.
and they do get the words, and
Yes.
they get to sing with expression, but then they're back to the do. And
Yes.
what I'm excited about doing with the self-isolation choir is teaching them the gorgeous transition between being an instrument and being a singer, and what we do with our voices to facilitate both of those styles.
Well, see, this is so exciting because we, as you know, Joanna, we've done the great works, you know, the Requiem, St. John's Passion. We're doing Puccini Messa di Gloria at the moment. We're going to do the Creation later. But we've also done 5 ABBA songs with Ralph Allwood. We're about to do some Beatles, Les Miserables. You know, we try to sort of make the repertoire a little bit extended. And there is nothing more exciting than what we're going to be doing together. And one of the things that has struck me about the way we learn and the way we record is that because the microphone is quite close to our mouth when we're recording from home, whether we're using our iPad or our mobile phone, the diction, when it's all combined together in a studio, is very clear. You know, even if you record in the Royal Albert Hall or something, you have a huge choir singing Messiah or whatever it may be, you know, there are probably 3 or 4 microphones around and about, and you know the words, but sometimes it's not that easy to hear the absolute perfection with the diction. Which
Well, that's what's so lovely about the close microphone experience, as you say. In the Swingles, we practically could touch our microphones with our mouths, they were so close. And some people who didn't understand, who thought it was just for volume, would sometimes say, oh, actually, our venue is really lovely acoustic, so you won't need your microphones. And we often had to explain, sometimes through translators, that the microphones weren't just there for volume, they were there for this intimacy. So you can create this intimate sound with an audience of 10,000 people, because you're just going do, 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 do. Now, as a trained
Oh,
classical singer,
keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
if I needed to project that to the back of a theatre, I could, but I have to go do, 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 and it would lose all that shimmer and sense of intimacy. So that's what having the microphones close does. And when we recorded Trinity, you probably saw that they
Yes,
each had their own
yes,
microphone. So
yes.
very, very similar. And it just creates this gorgeous
Oh.
intimacy. It doesn't matter how many people hear it or how far it's going, it feels like you're just having someone singing in your ear.
Well, this is why it's so exciting, because I hope that using the what we've learnt over the last year and using your tremendous harmony and harmonic skills, which are second to none, that we can produce something, I hope, that is similar to the intimacy that you created at Trinity, but with the vastness of 500 people. And,
Yes.
and if we can do that, Joanna, if you can train us to use the microphones as a tool, and because actually when you look at the rehearsal schedule, we have enough time.
Yeah.
We've got quite a number of sessions, and it's only one song.
Yeah.
But because it's going to be so special, we need to spend the time to get it absolutely right. And
Definitely. And just
I'm just, oh, can't believe the excitement.
well, what's going to be really exciting and why I'm so glad we've got this many sessions is that it's one thing to learn one's own line. We've all done that 100 times. But with this arrangement, the way that Alexander's written it is that one piano part, which is effectively what all the do 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 is about, is being shared between all of the different voices, so much so that your part on its own isn't very exciting, but
Yes,
your part as with the others is amazing.
yes,
So for example, there's a section very near the beginning, so you have the do 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 do, so that person's going do 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 do, but they have to make sure that their do do is so perfectly placed that
yes,
the overall effect is do do do, but someone else is singing do. So you've got this sense of being a cog in a bigger machine, but if your cog is exactly in the right place, it will sound perfect. When the music is going and you just need to contribute something towards it, but you don't want to disturb it, it's what I like that analogy of the train is going. So rather like with staggered breathing, which we'll
yes,
have to do a lot for this, you don't want to suddenly breathe and then come back in, but you want to just jump on and the train keeps going. And it's often the same with this particular arrangement, to try and create that effect of a chord that ripples from the basses
yes,
up to the sopranos,
yes,
and you just tuck your bit in exactly the right place and it
yes.
creates perfect sound.
Well, don't forget some of the differences with us is take Speminalium, which we're doing with Nigel. Nigel
Yes.
Short and Tenebrae have recorded every single track in isolation, and they've mixed it all together so that we can sing along with them for our Speminalium thing, which will be amazing. And I have had a few emails from the choir saying, "Oh, Mark, is Nigel going to tell us which choir to sing in?" And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, "I haven't sung choir three. Can I sing choir three?" And the answer is you can do the lot, because we're not all singing together at the same time for one performance, Joanna. We are singing continuously. So somebody could sing the
It's just
soprano in choir 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, in the same way that for How Do You Keep the Music Playing, a soprano or a bass could sing the same track 2 or 3 times, or she or he could sing another part. So they don't have to just learn their own part. They can get involved in learning the other parts as well if they wish. Um,
yes, and that's such a good thing in itself, because then you understand what everybody else is doing and how your part relates to that. And often when I'm training a choir, I will deliberately stand them SATB, 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 so that they haven't got that comfort of, oh, I can hear the people around me and therefore I know when to sing. And what's so lovely is that they don't like to do it often, and then you do it and they say, oh, I didn't know he was singing that.
yeah,
And it's lovely.
Well, I just tell you, it's going to be so exciting. Is there anything that you would like to pass on to the choir of, a choral choir rather than a jazz choir, or a choir that sings more traditional classical choral music? Is there anything you'd like to pass on to us now that we can start thinking about?
Oh, definitely. So, some of the main differences between the sections where we're imitating instruments and the sections where we're being singers, one of the main differences really is how we shape the vowel and how still we keep the note. So, what I mean by that is if the whole choir is all singing doon, doo doo doon, actually, that's the key that we did it in before, but you're doing it in doon, doo doo doon, doo doo. It's very important that everybody has exactly the same doon, and you can go doon, 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 doon. There are so many different ones. So, we need to find the perfect match, which obviously when we're not in the same room is not as easy to do.
Right. Right.
So I would suggest really listen to the recording demo that I've made and try and get that forward lipped doon doon sound. So not doon, but doon. And it's best achieved by imagining you're French and you've got these beautiful cheekbones that French people have from speaking like that.
Mm.
You get that sound, and then each of the doos ends with an N, which creates such a beautiful. I wish I could demonstrate to you the difference between a choir singing do arpeggios and a choir singing doon. It's so tiny, the difference, but the effect is gigantic.
Well,
So
I tell you
where the
what we could
end,
do. This is me thinking off the top of my head here. I mean, we could all record exactly what you've just said. We could all record do, and then all record do as you wish us to, and we could mix it in the studio. And in the next session, you could play it back to us.
yes, you could do that. I mean, it's so interesting because you get do 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 do, but doon 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 immediately just sounds more piano-like. It pings. It's
Yes.
something to do with the mimicking of the attack and the decay that you naturally get with a piano. So by closing down to doon, whereas do is more open-ended and it's good for mimicking other instruments, but for piano, the ending with an N, you see the detail we're going to go into.
Oh, no, but this is just
It's so worth it.
one other thing. Vibrato, no vibrato.
Yes, so when we sing, and oh, the way I feel for you is now or never, we can sing with vibrato there. We can shape the words like we mean them and get the real tingle factor. But when we're not singing that, Helen is the tingle factor, and we are creating this perfect background for her.
Yeah.
And the way we need to do that is to be very still with our pitch. So not doon, doo doo doon, 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 which is singer, but doon, doo doo doon, doo doon, doon, doo doo doon, doo doon.
Lovely, lovely,
You're
lovely,
hardly
lovely.
aware that it's being sung at all. And then all the attention is on Helen singing her beautiful song. And almost, you know that you've done your job right if people don't even realize that there were singers behind
Yeah.
her. They thought it was a piano because that's the effect we want. And pianos don't vibrate, they just give this lovely, still, perfectly in tune chord.
One quick question. If some of us, probably me included, have a sort of natural vibrato, is it easy to learn not to have it for this particular chord? I mean, can we learn to unvibrato ourselves, or is that difficult?
I think you can learn to unvibrato yourself. I love that idea, unvibratoing yourself. Some people find it easier than others. I've personally, in all the training that I've done with amateur choirs, have never come across someone who can't unvibrato
Okay.
themselves. It's much, much easier for, as it were, untrained singers than it is for somebody who's maybe been trained as an opera singer. For them to take off the vibrato is a lot harder. Some can. You get these fabulous people like Anne-Sophie von Otter who can
Yeah.
just croon into a microphone as well as belt out a massive great aria. But mostly I think it's quite tricky once you've been trained so much towards
Yeah.
the vibrato
Yeah.
end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But for the choir, for the self-isolation choir, I think what they will find is it's really joyous to experiment with the difference, rather like with a string player. When I
Yeah.
play the cello,
Yes.
sometimes I play without and sometimes I play with. It's nice to find that bit of your voice. Ah, I can actually go.
Yes. 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 Oh my gosh. Well, look, we so look forward to it, Joanna, and it's so exciting. And thank you for
Can't wait.
introducing yourself to us. And we're so looking forward to singing this with you. It's just going to be great fun. And I think at the end of it, we will show everybody that we can keep the music playing forever and ever and ever and ever.
Exactly. And that's what that song means now, isn't it?
Yeah.
How do you keep it playing? Well, you join the self-isolation choir.
Well, look, Joanna, it's been an absolute delight, and I'll speak to you very soon.
Been really lovely speaking to you, Mark.